Hey UTURN leaders, this is the KSM team, and we just wanted to give you a brief overview for Friday night. So for you leaders who are coming in and you're like, hey, I don't really know what we're teaching or what those expectations are, we wanted to give you just a brief lesson that you could watch to prep you for Friday night, the lesson that you're going to be teaching the kids. And so from 8 to 9, you will be in the homes with the kids teaching the lesson. And so we'll go over this again at the leader meeting, but also wanted to prepare you for this. And so on Friday night, what we are talking about is big picture. The weekend for UTURN is that light is good. We want them to see that walking in the light, who the light is. We're going to get to all of that on Saturday night, but on Friday night, we want them to kind of see the difference between light and darkness, and that there's good and evil and right and wrong. And so we want our kids thinking really big picture for our lesson. And so diving in, what would be super helpful, especially for you leaders who don't know your kids, is to share a little bit about you, who you are and your testimony, so they get a picture of who it is that is leading them. And so we encourage you to do that in the beginning, and then you guys are going to dive right in to Genesis 1, and that's where we're going to kick it off and saying, hey, in the beginning, God created everything. He said that it was good, including light and darkness, and what does that mean after the fall? And so you're going to start off. Again, your kids might have big picture questions of what does it mean that there is light and darkness, and you guys can kind of read through some of these questions, and we'll do that again this weekend. But you'll see that light represents goodness, and we want you guys to walk through the scriptures of the times where we see after the fall, where in scripture you'll read Psalm 56, Isaiah 9, Proverbs 6, Exodus 10, John 1, James 1. All of these verses represent and show that the light is good, that it is things that we need to walk in. And so they'll observe different times that they see in scripture that takes place, and then also in the world how light represents goodness. And then y'all will also talk through on that Friday night where they see darkness in the world. And so you'll go back to scripture and see how darkness is discussed in scripture symbolically, how it represents things that are against God, evil, darkness, judgment, all of these different things. And so you'll read again Proverbs 2, Exodus 10, Psalm 88, John 1, Proverbs 4, Romans 1 with your group out loud to discuss and see, okay, how is darkness discussed in scripture? What does it symbolize? What does it mean? Okay, then think big picture, not just introspectively for themselves, but where do you see darkness in the world? And we're going to point them again. We want them kind of to see that Satan, is kind of the deceiver. He is the person who orchestrates the darkness and camps out in the darkness and has them thinking in the darkness. So we're going to say, hey, where do you see darkness in the world? Where do you see the spiritual war? We want our kids to understand that there is a real spiritual battle going on, that it's not just everything that we can actually visibly see with our eyes, but there's a spiritual war going on where Satan is entering into that darkness and tempting them in their thoughts and all of those things. So again, we're not having them, we don't want to jump ahead of them. We're going to get to that on Saturday morning, Saturday evening, and especially Saturday night, who the true light is. But we want them to know that there is real spiritual light and darkness going on in the world around them. So have your group think big picture. And then you're going to ask them towards the end of the lesson, where do you see people battling darkness? And that's, again, where they might get a little bit more, okay, here's where I can kind of see it in Katy, Texas, in my world. And then you want to, obviously, we never want to end without finishing on the gospel, right? And so you're going to talk about what Satan desires for them and how he sees it. So we wrote out, Satan wants to lie to you and he desires your time, your sin, your thoughts, your lack of belief that God is real and cares, and your apathy towards walking in a relationship with God. However, we get to finish on who Jesus is, the person and character of Jesus, and that he, on the other hand, is constantly fighting that their soul may know and believe truth. He's fighting for them to experience a relationship with him that is full of grace, redemption, and forgiveness, and we're going to point to that hope. And so that's just big picture. If you guys have any questions as you're watching this video, we kind of want to shoot this curriculum out to you, give you a heads up of what you're going to be walking into on Friday night. But if you have any big picture questions, contact one of the KSM staff. We would love to talk through that with you as you're getting into Friday night's curriculum. And then the last thing is, just before you end that group time on Friday night, we're going to ask you to flip over to Colossians 1, 9 through 14 and just pray that over your group. So you as the leader, just flip that open and pray over your group that they would grow in wisdom and understanding of what walking in the light looks like for this weekend. So our team is so thankful that you've decided to devote a weekend to investing in our kids. We're so thankful for you. We're praying for you this week, and we're pumped to see you on Friday.